Hello there, YouTubers. This is the Piranha Kid, and I am here to discuss the year in music for the year 2017. First, I'll begin with a study that's been done 2 years ago in 2015 that expressed that once you turn 34, you no longer listen to new music. Now, of course, it basically kind of sounds like a pretty dumb theory or a study. But in 2017, I turned 34. And I must say that 2017 was pretty of a year. Like, it had its ups and downs. It had a lot of potential to be a great year for music, but I made here a list of artists that released new albums this year that if I had known in advance, by the end of 2016, last year I mean, that these artists will release a new record in 2017, I'd be really thrilled. But then, the following have released albums this year, and they all are meh, not more than like 3 to 4 stars. Like, they're all like, I'm grading them all somewhere between 6 to 8. Nothing wow, nothing classic, nothing for the ages, nothing that I would want to let my children and my grandchildren listen to, or even be proud that I lived in the age where the new U2 album, well, Songs of Experience by U2 was released. You know, it's an okay record. You had U2, you had Bjork, you had Morrissey, you had the Wu-Tang Clan, who released a very poor sounding album. Even the Gorillaz and the XX, that all indie freaks have been waiting for years, and both Gorillaz and the XX released really mediocre albums. So did the Flaming Lips and the Foo Fighters, and comeback artists such as Jesus and Mary Chain and Britpop sensations Shad 7. They all released albums that are somewhere between average to okay to, I don't know. They didn't do it to me, you know what I'm saying? Now, if we go back 20 years ago, I want to contradict the study. I want, even though, you know, I listen to tons of new music throughout the year and I don't like it. I know the study says that you stop listening to new music when you turn 34, but you know, I constantly listen to new music since I was very, very, very young. And I also, for like decades now, technically, yeah, decades, been making best of albums charts, like my favorite albums from number 1 to number 20 to number 40, 50, whatever. Now I can make up a good list, you know, like I have like a small list, it's not completely done, but you know, I might need some more time to set it, to declare my favorite album is, and afterwards comes number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, and so on and so on. And I wanted to contradict that study, to express that, you know, it's not that my taste in music has gone rotten with me getting older, per se. It's just that music is not, you know, what it used to be. And this is something that technically a lot of grown-ups are always saying. you know. But two things came up to my mind, expressing why that study is not reflective here. One is that I have listened to, as I mentioned before, tons of records, tons of new records that came out in 2017 during this year. But I mostly listen to older music for the first time. Not like older music that I'm all familiar with, but old music that's like from the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, and so on. That I technically love them more than most of the average stuff that came out this year. I listened a lot to Tom Waits and Portishead. Also, for the first time in my life, I heard a ton of old jazz records. I'm not a jazz enthusiast at all, but I listened to Herbie Hancock and Miles Davis and stuff like that. You know, the basics, and I love them all more than most records that came out in 2017. My second argument about me turning 34 does not reflect me wanting to explore new music is that, again, I go to the main idea that music nowadays sucks a lot more than it used to 10 years ago and 20 years ago and so on. It just turns too unthrilling. And I want to mention some records that came out in 1997. No, you know what? I'll just state the artist names, and all of them have released 20 years ago, exactly 2 decades ago, masterpiece albums. Masterpiece albums, okay? You had OK Computer by Radiohead, which is my all-time favorite record. Bjork, The Prodigy, Oasis, Blur, Wu-Tang Clan, The Verve released Urban Hymns, Portishead, The Chemical Brothers, Pavement, Daft Punk, Janet Jackson, and so on. I don't want to go too deep into that list, but these are just names that popped in my head. Now, all of these albums are just fantastic, you know? Like, I think that currently my favorite album of 2017, if it had to be somewhere between my top 20 albums of 1997, it will be at the bottom, at number 20, 19, whatever. And a lot of music critics of all ages will agree with me, supposedly. I mean, if OK Computer by Radiohead came out this year, it would top all of the critics' charts of albums of the year. Bjork with Homogenic, The Prodigy with Fat of the Land, The Verve, Portishead's debut, you know? I remember when they came out, people went crazy over these albums. All music critics and on actual record sales, on actual CDs sales. Maybe even some cassettes, I don't know. So these are my two arguments of how come the study from 2015 saying that you stop listening to new music at the age of 34. But by the way, another thing is because, you know, it's kind of easy saying it, you know? You don't have to go and ask a bunch of people when they stop listening to new music. I don't know exactly how that study went, but, you know, it's pretty expected that at the average age of 34, men and women are like new parents. They have children, they have a family that they're starting, so you push your habits to the side. You listen to, you have less time to explore new music. And another thing is that 2017 wasn't that bad. It wasn't, you know what? No, scratch it. It wasn't a bad year. It was just average. I do have some favorite albums, but if I had known that Fever Ray of The Knife would release a new album in 2017, I'd be biting these nails so rough till she'd finally release it. Because I've been waiting for 8 years for her second LP. That eventually came out like a few months ago. It's called Plunge. It is one of my top albums of the year. But it's not that memorable. It's not a quarter amazing as how much her debut was. It's good. It's not great. Also, if I known that Beck and Saint Vincent would release new albums this year, I kinda knew that they will, and I was thrilled about it. But Beck won a Grammy for his previous record, and Saint Vincent's record, her previous one, her self-titled one, was my favorite album of that year. And they're not that great. Neither Saint Vincent or Beck's new record, or Fever Ray. And I think that the album that most people are talking about as their personal best is Kendrick Lamar's Damn. It is a pretty good record. I listen to it a lot of times. It's kind of flawless. I will give Kendrick Lamar that. It is an excellent album, but it's not his best. Saint Vincent's one, Mass Seduction, is like maybe my third or fourth Saint Vincent top album. Don't get me mentioning Beck. Kendrick Lamar's previous records, To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City, were way better than this one. He's a great artist. He's a great rapper. He sounds excellent. And his album, and Damn is one of my favorite records of the year. But again, I'm not super thrilled about it. I'm not going back to it like every couple of days. I listen to it like, let's say 7-8 times by now, and I don't have that urge that tells me, go on, listen to Kendrick Lamar's record because it's so amazing, like I did 20 years ago with most of the albums that I mentioned before. Another runner-up for my album of the year is Jay-Z's record, if we're talking about hip-hop music and rap music. Jay-Z's record 444 is it will definitely be at the top 3. I'm not sure about if it's going to be my number 1 album of 2017, but I just loved it. Again, not loved it like let's go back to it on and on and on. I've also listened to it like 8, 9 or 10 times by now, but it didn't thrill me. It doesn't mean that new music doesn't thrill me anymore now that I've turned 34, because older music also thrills me, and there are good sounding artists these days, and I do want to explore 2018, and my expectations are not high. I'm not even sure about the list of new albums coming out next year. I know that Franz Ferdinand will release a new album. I'm sure that it's going to be packed with great artists. But you know, all of these artists that I mentioned before, you know, U2, Björk, Morrissey, Wu-Tang Clan, Gorillaz, The XX, Flaming Lips, Foo Fighters, they're all existing artists. They're all like with full discography category behind them. And you know, I just don't, I want to explore their future music. I want to explore modern days musicians' music in the future. But my expectations are not that high. And I don't think that it has anything to do with that stupid study that I've been going on and on throughout this video. It actually was like one minor point that I wanted to mention, but I got to talk about it more than I intended. So don't comment about that. And let's see, my top 5 albums of the year. Currently, not in the right order, it's Fever Ray, Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar, Beck, and Saint Vincent. Also Palehound, they're an excellent band, excellent indie band. I'm not sure if all of you know them. Look up Palehound live. They have like an intimate show they did like 2 years ago. I think it was on KCRW radio, and it was excellent, and that led me wanting to explore them, and I did, and they just released this year in 2017 a full length, and it is one of my favorite albums of the year. See? New musicians, new music that I actually like. I will eventually create my top, at least top 10 albums of the year. And I'm just, you know, basically ranting about what I want to say about all of this. If any of you want to comment by stating your top 5, 10, 20, 50 gazillion albums of 2017, feel free to do that in the comments, and let's all cross our fingers. Never mind if you agree or you disagree with me. Let's cross our fingers that 2018 would be a great year for music. Here's hoping. So happy new year for everyone from me, Piranha Boy or Piranha Kid. I don't remember how I presented myself in the beginning. And see you all on my next video. Peace out.